Hey guys, what's up? It's Elle Ariel, and this video is all about, hey, how'd you make that podcast? Hey again, it's Elle Ariel. I am a singer, songwriter, producer, and I am also the creator and host of Hey, How'd You Get That Music Job, which is a weekly music career podcast all about careers in music. I interview the movers and shakers and innovators in the music industry from all areas of the music industry and just basically find out from them how they got their music job. So every week I do a podcast, and this video again is about how I make the podcast. So I just want to talk to you guys about equipment, about software, about basically the steps that go into creating this podcast. So first things first, we're going to talk equipment. I think the best place to start is the microphone setup. So here is mine. Doing a little Vanna White here.
What's that, 42? 4,000.
And again, I think a microphone obviously is the essential part of a podcast, not surprisingly. And what I use is the Blue Yeti USB microphone. It's the ultimate USB microphone. You can get it on Amazon for a little over $100. I think it's a great investment. It's got a lot of really good reviews. I really like it. I also really like the fact it has 4 different settings. So you can do it for vocals, you can do it for podcasts, you can do it for, if there's a lot of people you're interviewing, it will pick up all the different people. So there's different settings. I really like it. It's a very, very good microphone. Highly recommend it. Okay, next is the Auphonix pop filter. So this is the one I got on Amazon. I think it's like under $10 or something, but it's basically designed for the Blue Yeti microphone, and what it does is it basically filters out all the stuff that comes out of your mouth that you don't mean to come out of your mouth. This filter will actually lessen that sound getting picked up from the microphone. Again, the microphone is super sensitive, so a lot of stuff gets picked up. So this filter does help it to sound more professional, more high quality. So what I use to cut down external noises is this Soundcage. This is a Silverback Soundcage I got on Amazon about, I don't know, maybe $50, a little under $50. So this is going to cut down on external noise. Again, there's no cure-all. It's not going to make anything completely soundproof. You kind of have to think about where you're recording. So if you are recording and there's a lot of noise, like for example, this part of my apartment, I'm right next to the street, so there's a lot of noise. So I tend to record in the back of the apartment. So you have to kind of think about that, because this again isn't going to make things soundproof, but it is going to cut down a lot on the external noise. So I go in the back, I use this sucker, it all works out well. And then also it's attached to a microphone stand, a 3-foot, well not 3-foot, but 3-legged microphone stand called OnStage microphone stand, $20 on Amazon. It's great, because the other thing you have to realize is this microphone will pick up a lot of external everything. It picks up everything. So the Yeti does come with this beautiful, lovely, attractive stand. And what I found is that, and I think a lot of other people have found this too, when you're recording, what happens is this mic will pick up every bump, every vibration. So if you accidentally hit the table or the desk where you're recording, it's going to get picked up from the microphone. So what I do and what a lot of other people do is they either get a shock mount, which is I think you can use a microphone stand. It basically suspends, the shock mount will suspend your microphone above you so you won't hit it, or attach it to a microphone stand, which is what I do, because then I can adjust it, the height up and down if I'm going to do vocals, and also obviously I'm not going to touch it when I'm doing podcasts. So it's just a good way to isolate the microphone and make sure that all the bumps and the vibrations and all that crap don't get picked up from this mic. So when you're recording, it has to go somewhere, right? So this is what I use for recording my audio. This is a MacBook Air. I really love it. So what I use is LogicPro, because I'm a LogicPro girl. I'm a synth pop producer. So I use LogicPro. However, there's a built-in free software called GarageBand that a lot of people use, and you can record and edit vocals on there. So I highly recommend GarageBand. I don't think there's really much of a difference between LogicPro and GarageBand in terms of just recording and editing audio. It's based, maybe there's some more bells and whistles on LogicPro in terms of plugins, but other than that, I think you're going to be totally fine. Last but not least, headphones. So these are Stanton DJ Pro 2000 headphones. These are mixing headphones. I use them primarily for mixing, but they're also great for editing podcasts. To be honest, when I'm recording a podcast, I just use my iPhone, headphones. So, I mean, this is nice in terms of like editing, and you want to make sure that, the vocals, everything sounds good and it's balanced, etc. But in terms of just when you're recording the podcast, and again, when you use headphones and you're recording the podcast, because you want to make sure that it's being recorded, that you're not picking up some crazy like dogs barking or, whatever it is. So you're using headphones during the podcast to just make sure there's no interference, that the recording is recording and that type of thing. These, again, I just use primarily for post-production. So basically after the podcast is recorded and now I need to go back and then edit it and add music and that type of thing, I will use these lovely Stanton headphones. And again, highly recommended. I think they're about $100 or so on Amazon. Okay, so now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to talk about how I make my podcasts using websites, using software. It's not going to be a super detailed explanation. I do highly recommend Pat Flynn. He has a website called smartpassiveincome.com with a ton of podcasting advice. He also has a ton of YouTube tutorials all about how to start a podcast. So I highly recommend that you guys check that out to get into sort of the step-by-step tutorials of how to make a podcast. Okay, so next, how do we record the interview? This was a big mystery to me. I could not figure it out because 99.9% of my interviews are remote. They're by phone. People are busy. They're out of town. They don't have time to meet in person. So how do I record these interviews? How do I do it? Zencastr is a great program. It's a website. Basically, there's a dashboard. I log in. I set up an interview. I send a link to my guest. My guest clicks on it. They're brought to the Zencastr website. They can use their iPhone or smartphone headphones with a built-in mic, or even if they have a USB mic, they can plug in. I use, my setup on my end. The entire conversation is recorded. At the end of the call, I get 2 tracks. I get them and myself, 2 separate tracks in either a WAV audio file or MP3 file to download. It's fabulous. And then I can go ahead and edit it. There's pricing plans and there's also a free level. So this is a great way to record, an interview by phone. The other one is UberConference.com. Same kind of thing, except there's actually a phone number. So people don't have to log in on a computer. They can actually call in like a traditional conference call. They call in a phone number with a PIN number that you provide them. Again, the entire call is recorded. I log in on my computer so I can hook in my mic, etc., etc. The entire call is recorded, and then at the end of the call, I get an MP3. It's not separate tracks like Zencastr, but you still get an MP3, and it's fairly decent quality. I mean, obviously, Zencastr is going to sound more like Skype, like the person's like in the room with you. It's very, very high quality, whereas UberConference sounds like a conference call. So, just take those 2 under consideration. But again, UberConference, like Zencastr, has pricing plans, and they also have a free level, so I would recommend both of them. So next is a Pat Flynn recommendation. When I have recorded my interview, and it's, 2 of us, obviously, I want to make sure that everything is balanced. No one's too loud, no one's too soft, that it all kind of balances out. Levelator is a free downloadable software that adjusts the audio levels within my audio file so that there's not too much variation. It's like this person doesn't sound super loud or tinny and I don't sound super soft or whatever. So it's just a great additional software to use to just make sure that your podcast has really good high quality sound. And here's another Pat Flynn recommendation. When you are finished with your podcast and you've edited it and you've created an MP3 file, and now you want to send it out to the world. Well, Libsyn is basically, it's the world's largest podcast network, and it will essentially host and publish your podcast. So it's like you don't obviously want people accessing your podcast from your own computer. So it's like a remote storage, remote hosting, publishing, and it has several different pricing plans depending on how large your audio files are. But it's been great and, definitely affordable and reliable, and I've never had an issue with them. Okay, now you need a website. So what I did was go to GoDaddy. I did they have a deal with WordPress, which is a very popular website blog builder. So I got this like GoDaddy WordPress package. So that's what I use to upload my podcast to, and that's what I use to kind of be the home base for the podcast and share links. The thing about WordPress is that it has the Blubrry PowerPress plugin, which is a plugin specifically designed for podcasts. So you can create your podcast audio file and have it live on the website. Also, there's an RSS feed which will help get your podcast to all the streaming platforms. So iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. These are all free, by the way. I'm not going to get really heavy duty into this stuff because it can get really complicated. And again, I think there's people out there like Pat Flynn that explain it so much better than I do. But I will just say yes, GoDaddy and WordPress is what I use to create my website, blog, podcast, home base. You can check out my website at musicjobspodcast.com. There's my little shameless plug. Okay, lastest but not leastest, social media. You must use social media if you have a podcast. It's all very well and good to upload your podcast to iTunes and Google Play and all the streaming platforms, but how are people going to find it? How are people going to know about it? You have to promote it on social media. So that means your podcast should have a Twitter account, a Facebook account, an Instagram account, maybe a Snapchat account, whatever you're comfortable with using, but it should have at least 2 or 3 social media platforms that you can promote. And you tell the world, weekly, if not daily, what's going on with your podcast, what guests you have on your podcast, what topics you have on your podcast. Second part of that, obviously, is hashtags. Hashtags is a great way for people to find you. People will look for specific topics using hashtags. So say your podcast is all about baking. So they're looking for hashtags about, baking cakes, hashtag cupcakes, hashtag baker's life, hashtag breakfast treats, hashtag kids favorites, whatever it is, those hashtags will bring more people to you, more people to your podcast, and get all the love you deserve. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video all about, hey, how'd I make this podcast? If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends. If you're watching this on the Music Jobs podcast, please like, subscribe, and share on any of the streaming platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. There will be more videos coming out. You can also find all my stuff at LARIELmusic.com. That's LARIELmusic.com. So remember to take good care, keep on hustling, pursue that dream, and don't you give up.